You are listening to the number one real estate podcast.
Just when Cody starts doing his announcement, just try not to talk and interrupt him. He gets really upset, and we don't want to piss him off. Okay?
Kind of like that.
Yeah. Don't. I'm giving you an example of what not to do.
Gotcha, brother. Gotcha.
Okay, great.
You're a piece of shit, you know that.
We have to get, dude. We have to.
I hope that Andres cuts that together. That should be the intro of the podcast. Here we go. You are listening to the number one real estate podcast in the world, where we talk with the real estate professionals all across North America about their wins, their losses, their lessons and stories, help you win in your local market today. My name's Cody from Sheridan Street. I'm joined with Vikram Deol of the Real Estate Sales Academy. Vikram Deol, my man, what's happening? What's good in life and business?
Bro, you know, what is happening? There's so much is happening. This week feels like it was one day and it flew by. We rebranded the Real Estate Growth Academy to the Real Estate Sales Academy. We've pivoted our offer, and we're really focused in on helping agents book more appointments, helping agents with the, you know, right now, a lot of agents, if they can get their foot in the door, they will win, but they can't get their foot in the door because of the market or interest rates or, you know, prospects are pushing them away, or they just, dude, you know how many conversations I know you know this, but how many conversations I hear where the prospect goes, well, you know, I'm just calling you back because my CRM popped up a notification. Oh, and by the way, how you doing? And I'm like, what the fuck was that? They're like, well, we don't want to use the script because we don't want to sound scripted. I'm like, did you hear that opening? They're like, no. And what I do now is like on calls, I grab my phone and I do the voice recorder. So I'll just voice record from my speakers and then I'll play it back to them. And they're like, well, yeah, that's like 95% of the calls. I was like, do you understand now why people don't want to talk to you? They're like, yeah. And so we've just been really focused in on the sales conversations, how to use tonality and cadence. And one of my clients, I'm not going to say his name, but you know who he is. He been with us for 90 days. And when we first started, he's like, I don't want to do this. Is stupid. I was like, bro, give it 90 days. And if you don't like it, you're out. Like I'll rip it up, the agreement, let you out. And he sent me an email yesterday, about a week ago. And he's like, bro, I have had more confidence in conversations and I'm bringing on 2 listings because I just have better conversations. He's like, and my conversations suck. So it's been good, man. And so, yeah, we're just really focused on helping agents get that initial conversation and learn how to just be a normal human being when they sit down with Mr. or Mrs. Jones. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like I echo that sentiment of, you know, like we have a fundamental belief, and I was chatting with Sharon about this week, and like just energetically, I was chatting with him earlier this week, energetically trying to shift the tone of the real estate industry is something that I'm really stepping into, is the humans over homes, like that concept of like, I released, and I posted about this on social, I released 2 agents this week from their contracts because they didn't share that same ethos to life about humans over homes. Like I literally had a conversation this week with an agent who said that they don't want to follow up with this live transfer call. So they spoke to somebody, not like a lead. They spoke to somebody on the phone. They didn't want to talk to that person.
I think for the new people that don't know what you do, Cody, and for our guests, your agency has inside sales agents that will dial the leads that you guys generate for them. So this is somebody that was a lead generated. It was not like 16 years old lead. It was brand new. And so I just want to give that preface.
Yeah, so I appreciate that concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they had this person on the phone. It's a seller, and the seller obviously has a low interest rate, and they were interested in getting the value for their home. So it's a seller, like real life seller for their home. And this agent said to me, this is not a good lead. They're not going to move because interest rates have a lower interest rate than what they have currently. And I like look at the person and I'm like, so you're not going to follow up. You're not going to help them. Like, you're not even going to give them information.
Were you on a Zoom call with them?
I was on a Zoom call. Like, I just like, I looked at the person. I was like wide-eyed. I was like, I don't understand. Like, we do not jive ethos wise. And And I said, and I asked them, like, where should we go from here? And they're like, well, ideally, like, if we're going to keep getting leads like this, we want people that are going to sell now. And I'm like, you're delusional. Number one, you're delusional. And number two, you don't share our ethos to humans over home. So that's been my week this week. My week has been a lot of like, but I've had great conversations very similar to you where people like, we have a client, Mike, right now, who is like booking tons of in-person meetings because he, like you, is following the scripts, actually caring about people. And I think that this is a perfect opportunity for us to intro our guest, Aritt Davis, because of the fact that it's really difficult to be a part of Sharon's ecosystem, very difficult to be a part of Real and not share that same ethos to life around humans over homes, about wanting to help people. And Aritt has an amazing background, being in the military. It's hard. I would assume that it would be very difficult to not want to help people and go to the military and have this like larger like focus on life of like wanting to make a large impact. And Aritt has done amazing things in his real estate business, and I'm so privileged to have the opportunity. And I know that I'll speak for Vikram, has the opportunity to sit down and chat with such a high achiever, somebody that's accomplished so much in the real estate business in such a short amount of time. So, Aritt, why don't you give us kind of like a high level overview on like who you are, where you're at in the world, what you've done over this short amount of time in real estate, where you're now building a team in a market that a lot of people are declining and you're growing. And I'm really curious to kind of pick your brain today. But before we get there, why don't you give us a high level overview on kind of like who you are, how you got into real estate, and kind of what you're doing in the Mississippi area?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, guys, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it so much. Look forward to jamming with you guys. And, 2017, I retired from the military, chief warrant officer, did 21 years. But right prior to retiring from the military, I started a cleaning business. 2013, I started cleaning on the side or whatever, just so I would have something to fall into, building my first business coming out of the military. And that just kind of naturally led me over to real estate. It got to a point where I was getting so many calls. Hey, we want to get our property cleaned up, trying to get ready to put it on the market. So I would throw it out there, hey, or are you working with an agent? And at that time I was building just a referral business, right? So I was referring that out to agents that I knew in my local market or whatever that they could benefit from and stuff. So, but it got to a point where it was like, I really think I could probably just do both of these. And so 2018, I got my license after studying the market for about a year, studying brokerages, brokers, analyzing everything prior to making the jump. And by the time I made the decision and tested and got my license, I already knew where I was going. I already had my game plan, and I hit the ground running. So first 6 months into the business, I gave my cleaning business away. Gave it to my brother-in-law. No longer needed it. Couldn't keep up with both at the same time. Closed a little over 40 transactions in my first year. Doubled that my second year. Third year, got my broker's license, started a team, brought on 3 brand new agents, trained them. Kind of what got me going and how I got going. We did roughly around $20 million our first year. First quarter of 2022, we did about 10 million. And then today, 1 year ago, I launched Real Broker in the state of Mississippi with those 3 guys, and brought on something that we thought was going to propel not only our families, but the families and the business of lots of real estate agents in the state of Mississippi, and have grown that from, we're onboarding number 38 today. On our anniversary, we did roughly 280 sides in the past year, as we grew, and a little over $60 million, I think, in inventory. So that's kind of the high level overview of where I'm at and where we're sitting at today. So,
Bro, we just got to do this real quick for you. So let's just unpack this a little bit, because I think there's something that a lot of people are going to skim over. One is you have a military background, which we'll jump into how that has impacted your success. Patrick David talks a lot about how people. I think there's a very high number of CEOs in Fortune 500 companies as well. I want to say it's like upwards to 50% or even more that have, and somebody can fact check me, that are part of, that were in the military at some point in their life. So there's a level of discipline that comes there, but I think a lot of people are going to miss one thing that you said, because you kind of glossed it over like it was no big deal. You studied the market and you studied brokerages and you studied a lot of different, I would imagine, elements. Like, you're very tactical, like you're going into war. And if we make a mistake, somebody could die. It sounds like you were very tactical about what your next move was going to be before you got into real estate. Whereas a lot of real estate agents get into it by accident. You got into it on purpose, with a purpose. And it's very different because your success speaks to the, just the sheer amount of transactions. Like 40 transactions is a lot. 80 transactions is a lot. Like, to do that in your first couple of years is a pretty insane number, considering the national average is 4. So that's 10x and 20x the national averages in the first and second year. I want you to kind of explain, like, let's say you're not a brand new agent, but like you're doing well, you're doing $100,000, your average price is like $500,000. So, you're making $100,000 a year, doing 15 sales. When you studied the market, how do you look at things? Because coming from the military, I would assume that you have a different view of how to analyze opportunities and threats. And so I'm just curious, like, what was your analysis of like, what do I need to do to be successful?
Yeah, that's a lot to unpack. All right. So
You're welcome.
yeah, absolutely. So backing up to when I started my cleaning business, I studied that particular field for over a year before I launched it. I pre-sold cleanings 3 months before I ever bought the first piece of equipment. Like,
Oh my God.
I already had everything in line before I put the financial commitment to it. But that, I believe a lot of the most successful people call it passion. I call it obsession. If you obsess over the little things, the little details, the little things that happen on a daily basis, those are the things that you can scale over a long period of time or short period of time. Just depends on how obsessive you are. But looking back at what I did, being in that cleaning business did allow me to kind of pull the veil back just a little bit on real estate, and see what agents were doing, see what brokerages were doing, talk with other agents even before I got my license to figure out what was working for them, what wasn't working. And like you said, coming from a tactician standpoint, and the way I looked at things, I analyzed things a little bit differently. Number one, I'm easily distracted. So the first thing I looked at when I was analyzing where I was going to go for a brokerage was, what is going to distract me from my goal, right? What do I see is going to handicap me mentally, or emotionally or physically, And I saw different things going on in different offices, and, maybe the way they conducted their trainings, or, how, hands-on they were. And I was coming from a little bit of an arrogant standpoint, to be honest. I was like, I know how to run a business. I've been doing this for a little while now, and I don't feel like I need the hand-holding on the business side. So I immediately started eliminating where I knew that I didn't want to end up. And then I started looking at, okay, who's got office drama? Who's got, what's the water cooler talk? These kinds of things are going to distract me. I don't need that. So I pushed all those things out or whatever, and I ended up going with an independent broker that I speak to this day on almost on a daily basis, but several times a week even. I love them. They're like family to me, but we had built a relationship based on my cleaning business before coming into real estate. And at the time I went to them, I was like, hey, I'm thinking about getting my license. And they're like, well, yeah, we're really not looking to grow. We don't want to take on anybody. And we sure don't want to take on new agents. We don't want to have to handhold, blah, blah, blah. I said, that's exactly what I want. I don't want you in my business. I don't want, if you're, I need you when I need you, but if I don't need you, I don't want you, And so we built a relationship on that, and they allowed me to hit the ground running. I made some mistakes, but that's how I learn best. I value the mistakes. I value the valleys more than I do the peaks, because those are the things that I learn from the most and are going to make me better, than, just constantly succeeding. So, that's, just kind of a brief synopsis of, hey, I'm looking at this market and this is what I see. And these are the things I think I need to avoid. And this is my goal. And how do I get there?
Early on in your business, you analyzed a lot of different things about brokerages, about strategy. I'm curious to know what your acquisition strategy was in order to get those 40 transactions in your first year, those 80 transactions in your second year. Did you have clearly you had an acquisition strategy for new clients, and obviously you had the cleaning business. So like that was like a direct, almost like it could have potentially have even been a adjacent strategy, like partnership strategy. Like, what was your acquisition strategy for new clients in your local market in your first year, in your second year? And then maybe you could speak to a little bit about what your acquisition strategy is now.
Yeah. So, initially, I was definitely relying heavy on, the relationships I had built. I had built up quite a clientele, and they loved me. As a matter of fact, I still get calls to this day. Hey, can you come clean my house? I'm like, no, I'm not doing that now. Yeah, but you did it great, and that goes to, that obsessive thing, right? I obsessed over the little things, and those little things, in that cleaning business, put out a product that my competition couldn't compete with. And so I definitely relied heavily on that, but I also rely, and still to this day, rely heavily on, my sphere of influence and, referrals from, I've got a large network in various places. I've served all over, but, I was in Mississippi, full-time with the Mississippi Army National Guard for 21 years. I've been in just about every city, every town, every armory, whatever, in the state or whatever. So I built a really big network, and I still do to this day. And lots of friendships, and so I'm able to lean pretty heavily on that. And then I built both of those businesses on that back, but I also utilize social media in a way that a lot of my competition in the cleaning business wasn't, at the time. And I 100%, built both my businesses on the back of social media. So those two things together, I lean heavy on. I still lean heavy on, maybe not as much as I would like to, because I'm so busy now. It's kind of hard for me to maintain the social presence that I did in my earlier career.
I got a question for you, because you're not a day over, like probably 16, 17, you'd say, Cody? So
Probably around there.
Yeah. So, social media was something that you did not grow up with. It was not probably something that you were like, oh my God, this is familiar to me in your service background. And so to come out in 2018 or 2016, when you started your cleaning business, and you said you relied heavily on social media, and then you also said you relied heavily on your network. I guess if you could unpack like briefly, because obviously if you go deep into your strategy, it might take multiple hours, but if you could just unpack briefly for the audience, like what was your process to stay front and center of your sphere of influence? Like, how do you stay front and center of your sphere of influence? And then how were you relying on social media? Like, if you could unpack that just for the audience and what you were doing, because a lot of people post on social media, they, you know, like I see some of my clients when they start working with us, they post once every 3 weeks, once every 4 weeks. And it's like a picture of a flower or a picture of their dog. And I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, so what were you doing with your audience and what were you doing with your sphere to really leverage this huge business you've built now?
Yeah, so that's a great question too, and really and truly, what I did and the way I took my sphere of influence and social media, I didn't see those as two separate things. What I did is I incorporated my sphere of influence into my social media campaigns, right? So I'm, obviously, send friend requests or whatever with people that I have been out of touch with or whatever. One thing I do, I'll go ahead and just put this tidbit out there or whatever. Every day on Facebook, we get a list of who's got a birthday, right? And it may seem trivial. It may seem, really small, and it is. It's really small, but I take the time every day to individually, by name, wish everyone on that birthday list a happy birthday. Seems really small, right? But it's the small things you'll notice. There's a trend. So it's the small things that you're able to build on and scale from. So bringing in my sphere of influence into my social media and then turning them into raving fans is how you build a social media referral business, or how I did. And that's what has worked for me, and what's continuing to work for me. And it's just one of many pieces that, I encourage my agents to utilize as well. Utilize, your business profile as well as your personal profile. Put personal stuff on your business profile, put business stuff on your personal profile, but the more you can bring that whole, ball around full circle, the better it's going to work for you, especially if you want to work in your market, right? And you can run, I ran campaigns, I run ads, I target, certain people, or whatever. So, I mean, it's just a continuous thing, but you have to do it. Like it's second nature for me. Like I've been doing it since I started. Before I started my cleaning business, you hardly ever saw me on social media. Now, like I'm on there every day looking for where my next lead's coming from. Like there is money in that free billboard that you get to change on a daily basis.
You brought up that you encourage your agents to do the same thing that you did early on in your real estate business in order to get the success you have. I've chatted with so many real estate team leads that are scaling back their teams because they've failed, you call a spade, they failed to lead effectively. And, obviously your military background has given you the ability to create discipline in your life. When somebody wants to join your team and they say, hey, like I'm putting a I'm putting a stand in the ground, like I want to come and join you. What are some of the non-negotiables that you have in order to join your team? Are there things that you do in that on-ramping of an agent that creates the success? Because obviously at the amount of transactions that you're doing now as a broker, there has to be some sort of like a leadership ability that you've created in yourself in order to get other people to where they want to go in their business. Can you unpack your ethos, unpack your strategy a little bit to us for how you lead your team now? like on a daily basis?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is probably not going to sound like the most sound business advice, right? But I'm a people person, right? I love people, and I believe everyone is entitled to an opportunity. And so when I sit down with an agent for the first time, or, the 20th time, and they finally decide, hey, yeah, I want to be a part of what you have going on. What can you do for me? That's the question we get. What can you do for me? And so what I tell agents all the time is, I promise to invest as much of myself into ensuring your success as you invest in yourself, and you make the time to have those one-on-ones, those face-to-faces, those times that we are able to get together so I can, mentor, coach, train, teach, whatever it is. But I will never chase you. I do not have time. I'm building an empire is my goal. And I will invest as much of myself into incorporating you into that and getting you to whatever level of success you choose to be on. But I won't chase you.
That is something so different than what a lot of team leaders do. A lot of team leaders have a mindset of scarcity. And what I'm hearing from you is just a complete opposite mindset. I'm hearing that you just have a mindset of abundance and that you will figure it out. And it's hard for me to think about how somebody can be so different. Like, I've coached people that will not let go of the shitty agent, and their whole team and business falls apart because they hold on to that one person. Whereas, and then you hear the successful people is, I don't hate you. I will just love you from afar, right? It's not personal. It's just business. And right now I have 15 other people that have 5 other mouths to feed that I'm responsible for. So it's not that I hate you, and it's not that I dislike you. It's just, I will love you from afar. And the I will not chase is something that I think is super powerful. And when you are working with, like Cody mentioned earlier today in the trainee, or in the call, that he had to release two wolves from the pack because they just were on a different beat. Have you noticed yourself having this mindset of abundance and this I won't chase you concept, not just with your personal team members, but also with clients? And if yes, how has that shaped the way that you show up for them, but more importantly, how you show up for yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So that particular part of it, when we're talking about clients, was a harder lesson for me to learn, right? Being that people person and often a people pleaser, I wanted to work with everybody. I wanted to help everyone.
I feel like there is a pivotal moment. Like, I feel like there's a story behind where you had to realize maybe that trying to please everybody didn't work out for you.
Yeah. So if we're being perfectly honest, let's just put it out there. Some people can be shitheads, right? I mean, like when you're working with these people and they don't see what you're going through. They don't see the knots in your stomach. They don't see the anguish that you're going through, and you're trying to do what's best for them and their wishes. And when they're not in alignment, like when their best interest is not in alignment with their ideals or their ideas, that's hard for an agent to bring that person around, and also acknowledge that, I have a fiduciary duty for their motivations or wishes or whatever, but it's not in their best. And you just can't work with everyone. And it took me some time to figure that out, because I'm a problem solver. I'm a firefighter, right? I got to go my day every day. My day started out at 6 a.m. this morning, putting out fires that started yesterday, right? So I'm a problem solver. That's what I do. And when you can't solve it, sometimes those are the ones that hurt the most. But it goes back to what I was saying earlier. The lessons make us who we are, and the lessons make us, whether we're great, mediocre, whatever, and how we, maybe not the lesson, but how we react and how we incorporate that lesson into our lives and into our business. And so, yeah, I definitely had to learn that, just because of my personality and because of who I am. I'm a servant leader, I took this role, as an act of servitude, believe it or not. Being the broker for a state, building an empire in a state while being the broker, reducing my, production by 80%, that's a servant's heart. So it's hard sometimes to let go of that or know when to let go, but it's definitely a lesson I've learned well.
You mentioned that you have, like, this morning, like, you woke up and, like, you were dealing with issues from yesterday. You were putting out fires. Like, I think a lot of real estate agents, a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners go through that, where they wake up and they immediately, like, the first thing that they're doing when it comes to business, they're putting out fires. And some days the fires are harder than others, and some days things feel good, and other days things feel like everything is burning down. From a mentality perspective, from a mindset perspective, how do you deal with the days that it feels like everything's falling apart? Do you have a routine that you go through? Do you have a process you put yourself through in order to stay in a state of abundance, in a state of servanthood? How do you do that for yourself?
Yeah, that's a tough one, but I eat it for breakfast. Like, I kind of thrive on it a little bit. I know that sounds, crazy, but it's something that I've learned to kind of crave. It makes me feel, on a personal level, needed, right? Like I'm doing something great. And when I'm able to, I get issues sometimes. The agents think it's the end of the world, and I'm like, if I had these easy ones, these softballs every time laid up, that would be great, but hey, I'm glad I can solve it for you, right? Because to them, it was very important right then, and the way I handled it and the way I approached it, and was able to, remedy the situation quickly. That's huge for the agent, right? So that just makes me feel better. Like, yeah, there's days when I'm like, golly, what in the hell am I doing? Right? I mean, if we're all being honest, we all have those days. But I've gotten to a place in my mental state where I know that's today, but it ain't tomorrow. Right? And so I know that when the sun sets, it's going to shine again. And so I'll get through the night, and then the next day's coming, And so that's kind of, I take breaks, right? I mean, it may be the middle of the day or whatever, and I mean, it's just going to hell, right? I'm like, the hell with it, I'm going to take a couple hours, I'm going to go hop on the boat. I'm going to gas on it, we'll feel the wind in my hair, and we'll pop a cold drink, whatever, and enjoy life just a little bit. And this problem that I think is so big, when I come back to it, I'll have a different perspective, So taking those mental breaks is very important. I don't take near as many as I should, but, when I've had enough, I've had enough.
I just respect that so much. Coming from a man that has such structure and discipline, you're also structured and disciplined. And I think there's a high level of self-reflection that comes with, hey, if I don't get out of the house, if I don't get out of the situation, if I don't take a break, I will lose it. And I feel like that is a leadership quality that a lot of leaders strive for, but they don't ever achieve, because we have this in the Western culture. Like, we're in South America right now, and my assistant, when she takes lunch, she sits on the couch and she chills out. She puts her computer away, and I'm like, I got a bowl of steak next to me, like water, coffee. I'm eating like right before the podcast starts, right? Because I'm starting to get the jitters at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And she like takes her time, sits down, eats, relaxes, doesn't have her phone out. She's super chill. That is a skill that I believe that in real estate, especially because I've been in a lot of careers and I've seen a lot of things. In real estate agents, there's this constant like shakiness that they have, that if I take a break and my client sees me on the boat, my client sees me with my family, my client sees me at a dinner, they're going to fire me.
Mm-hmm.
How do you instill that? Because leadership teaches others certain things. So if you're always at your desk eating, it teaches your team that they need to do the same thing. So how do you instill this concept that, hey, if I take a break to let my imagination go, let the stress go, how do you instill that into yourself so that you can instill that into your team members? Like what? Yeah. Like, I'm just curious, because I struggle with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, that would be a different podcast.
Okay.
let's just say that I haven't always been where I am with my mental health, and learning how to deal with, stresses like that, and it's definitely something that I've learned over time, and it took just what you said, a whole lot of deep self-reflection, figuring out what my triggers are and figuring out how I can work around those. That goes back to what I was saying about when I first studied the market. One of the things I looked at first was what's going to distract me from my goal, right? So I know those things because I've taken that time to analyze myself and answer the hard questions about who I am as a person and who I could be if I allowed myself to go off the deep end, right? So, but yeah, I mean, we could really get on a whole other tangent and a whole nother episode about all of that. But I just know that I'm also a bit of an empath, so I recognize things in others because I've been there, right? And just had a conversation with an agent not too long ago, was struggling. And I told this agent, I said, look, what you're looking for is not on that couch. And the longer you lay on that couch and you lay in that misery, the tighter that grip is going to be on your life. And you need to get the hell up. You need to go outside. You need to drink a cup of coffee in the morning. You need to go exercise. You need to come in. You need to take a hot shower or a cold shower, as hot and cold or cold as you can absolutely stand. And then you need to go to damn work. It changed her life, but I've been there. Yeah, I've been on that couch. So I know when I see that in others or whatever. So that's, it was not an easy conversation to have. Like, agents are 1099s, right? They're not employees. I can't tell you, I can't force you to do anything. But if I see you're struggling, I've got a heart, and I'm going to talk to you, and I'm going to be honest with you. And if you can't handle that, I'm not going to chase you. So
that is a perfect way to wrap up this podcast. Is team leaders don't chase, attract, and lead from a place of empathy, lead from a place of service. And Aritt, I just want to say thank you more than anything for sitting down with us today, chatting a little bit about how team leads can really scale their business, how they can really run a really high performance team, a high performance lifestyle. Just really grateful. If somebody were to want to reach out to you, want to have a conversation with you, maybe potentially agent to agent referral, they want to learn a little bit more about what you do, where is the best place that we can send them?
Sure, absolutely. You can always get me on social. You can get me on Insta, Facebook. You can send me an email, Aritt Davis, ARITT, Davis at gmail.com. Reach out to me any which way. Love to talk to you. Would love to help you any way that I possibly can. Love to connect. I love meeting new people, having conversations, talking shop, and I'm always available to help anyone.
Aritt, from the bottom of my heart, from the bottom of Vikram's heart, I want to say thank you. And I want to say thank you for tuning into another episode of the REHN podcast. If you're listening back on iTunes or Spotify, if you could leave us a review, it would mean the world to us. We can help more real estate agents win in their local market today. We don't ask for a whole lot. Just if you can leave us a review, it helps us get in front of more real estate agents and with good information, such as Aritt, about how to run a high performance real estate business. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you soon.